Hello, and welcome to IAB Pulse, our regular video news show where we discuss the hottest and most important topics in the digital advertising industry today. I'm your host, Chris Bruderle, IAB's Vice President of Industry Insights and Content Strategy. Today, we will be discussing what success looks like in a world where, although data privacy is a mandate and signal fidelity is decreasing, the advertising, marketing, measurement goals, and objectives remain the same. Joining me to discuss this topic are Andrea Zapata, Vice President of Advertising Data, Measurement, and Partnerships at T-Mobile, and Angelina Eng, my colleague, the Vice President of IAB's Measurement, Addressability, and Data Center. Ladies, welcome to the virtual stage.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. Angelina, I'm thrilled to be here. And this is like one of my favorite topics. So excited.
All right, let's chat. Let's get into it. So first, I'd like to address the topic of unlocking data with consent. It's something that we've been talking about. And when I first heard that, I was like, wow, that is a really interesting concept. So Andrea, I want to start with you. What is T-Mobile doing today with data? And how are you folks being strategic with data as you push forward?
Yeah. So, hi. Okay. So, this is such a good and timely topic. I've now been at T-Mobile with the word data in my title, or at least in my remit, for the last 6 months. And what I've learned at T-Mobile is we are quite serious about becoming a data informed and an AI enabled and a digital first company. It comes from our CEO. It is indeed in our mission statement. And it's something that I'm working really hard to make tangible for the business, the wider business at T-Mobile. Remember, our core competency, the reason why we have such a strong relationship with our customer is about connectivity. And how we think about unlocking data here at T-Mobile for advertising specifically is based on, four very core tenets around transparency, around control, around trust, and protection. We can sort of dive into what that means in a little bit, but really at the heart of it, it's making sure that our customers are really aware of what their options are when it comes to T-Mobile potentially using their data. Early days in the journey here at T-Mobile as we unlock data in a privacy-centric way, but it all goes back to affirmation, choice, and then us here with the great privilege of sitting on a network, right? Lots of devices, a really strong customer base. How do we want to then unlock that data again in a privacy-centric way to then build advertising products that help our clients target, optimize, measure, right, their investments. So, I mean, fun, but it does at the end of the day start with a very real stewardship around privacy and consent with our customer base.
So that's really interesting because as you were saying that, the word that was popping into my head was responsibility. And I think you actually said that yourself. And that's a big word, right? And my next question was, what does unlocking data responsibility mean to you in T-Mobile?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, I'm just going to throw out some numbers just so you know what we're working with here. And I think that will lend a lot of weight to that term responsibility. We have north of 120 million devices, right? We have about 40 million primary account holders. We cover about a third of the nation when it comes to connectivity. And we have very real insight into behavior at a high level because of our network, our coverage of the network. Those give us data signals. So there's sort of the users of said data, and then there's the usage of data, right? And so, it's the user and the usage that are really important. And those things are, of course, inherently linked and bring value to a marketplace for potential advertising purposes. When we think about the responsibility, at the end of the day, our customers are looking to make sure that they have one coverage so they can make the calls and engage on their apps and web browse and have sort of that speed that they've come to T-Mobile for. And T-Mobile we have a brand story that is like none other. We have really and truly become number one because we have, one, demonstrated value, two, kept customer at the forefront of everything we do. And so the responsibility we have, if we're going to go and use a different component of our relationship with our customer, we've got to make sure that we are being not only responsible for protecting the data, the information that we have, using it in a really smart and thoughtful way that again is in accordance to regulation and the laws, but then also making sure that our customers are aware of what we're doing. It goes back to communication, transparency, language that makes sense for them, and also taking them along for the journey, and that there's value being brought back ultimately to them, right? So I can say all day, every day, what the data here at T-Mobile can do for our customers. And when I mean customers on the advertising side, right, for marketing and advertising purposes, we know what this data can do. It is powerful because, again, it's rooted in identity. It has a beautiful device graph, and it has network signals that allow us to then demonstrate not only targeting capabilities, but efficacy. But our customer, again, that base that comes to us for connectivity, we can't do any of these things unless they, one, see value, and two, are informed and can then, three, make a decision.
Yeah, I love to add that, first off, I love that, T-Mobile positioning on that. But I would just add that this is not just the responsibility of the publisher or a platform. And this is a multi-party collaboration, and that advertisers and their tech partners that is either integrated or feeding into their business models, and working with T-Mobile and any other platform or partnership, that there needs to be responsibility across all of those parties.
I actually love that you say that, because listen, I have a responsibility, and the team that I work with, for making sure that what we do within our own house lives up to our core values, right? And I mean, this is a journey. This is a journey the entire industry is going on, especially we'll get into this about the demise of the cookie. Yes, we have ad tech now. We have ways in which to protect data with data clean rooms. There's a lot of things that we didn't have, say, 3-5 years ago, but also we have laws that are evolving, in a very, very fast pace. I mean, privacy, I do nothing without privacy. In fact, meetings happen at T-Mobile. If privacy is not on the call, I'm like, I don't know what we're doing here. Okay. So I just say that because we have to be mindful, but I can only care for what's in my house. But I am also making sure that, to your point, Angelina, that the advertisers and the clients who are making investments or are coming to us, who are saying, we have first party data, you have first party data. How are we thinking about a go forward advertising model that protects their customer base, our customer base, but makes really interesting advertising models move forward in the future? So we're not, yes, we can go back to contextual, and we should, right? But also, an AI is going to enable us to do a lot of things that, again, allow us to use a data set and then, again, be predictive. But how do we still make sure that at the core, we're doing things that advance the advertising space, as opposed to just keeps us sort of in that place of where maybe we don't want to do that because, again, we're unsure. It's more about how do we push innovation with privacy safe ways. But to your point, this is an industry-wide thing, which is why you guys at the IAB are vital to the conversation, but also making sure that we're thinking about and caring for a strategic approach that we can be proud of.
Yeah, you bring up a really interesting point that harkens back to some research that we did earlier this year. And it was about understanding what consumers want, what makes them comfortable, what makes them uncomfortable. But I think the key to that is value, the value exchange. What are they getting for sharing their data with you? And what you have to do is convey clearly to them what that is. And here we are. It's Tuesday, and it's actually a special day within the T-Mobile world because you guys have something called T-Mobile Tuesday. Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I'd be remiss if I didn't say happy T-Mobile Tuesday to you guys. But customers, like I've said before, are at the heart of everything we do here at T-Mobile. And T-Mobile Tuesday is our way of thanking our customers for being the most important part of what we do here at T-Mobile, and it's part of our brand story. So in our T-Life app, customers can claim T-Mobile Tuesday rewards from us. And they come from brands from all over, and they include things like free burgers or a $5 movie ticket, things that are really sort of fun, but also can actually just like sort of get you the free lunch that you want on a Tuesday. This is a popular, not only T-Mobile Tuesday offering, but it's offered within our T-Life app. And we are embedded in millions of people's weekly routines. This is a win-one for us at T-Mobile because one, it says thank you to our customers, but two, it allows us to engage with a really large customer base who, one, trusts us, but also comes to our site routinely to, again, redeem said reward. Brands come to us specifically because one, well, drives sales and promotion. It builds upon customer loyalty, and it increases their app engagement and downloads. And it's an incredible opportunity to put their brand, again, in front of millions of engaged customers every week. We have seen not only mobile as the anchor point, but we've developed advanced solutions to address retention, redemption, and purchase. And ultimately, it's our way of saying thank you, because we wouldn't be where we are unless we had our customers engaging with us in a way that they, again, see value, and we are authentic in our thinking.
Very interesting. I think that's excellent. And we've talked in the past about the value exchange and the power of giving back to the consumer, especially when we're asking them to use their data. It's great business to be able to give back to them and show your appreciation. So that's an amazing thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
T-Mobile is really interesting to me. And I thought about this when you guys were actually giving your New Fronts presentation, which was excellent, by the way.
Thank you.
And obviously, New Fronts is about you being a seller and talking about all the amazing things that you can bring to the buy side. But then you had also mentioned, I think it was you or another person from T-Mobile in one of the other breakouts was talking about the perspective as being a buyer. And then I realized T-Mobile is unique in that you are not only media sellers, but you are also media buyers. Yeah. In fact, you're one of the top 10 spenders in the market in the US and have been for years. So I'd love your perspective as a buyer, like as an advertiser on the same side, on the other side, is what's going on in this space. What do you look for in a sell side partner as an ad buyer?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I often say that, in fact, I would say my boss and those he's brought along for the journey of T-Ads, we like to say that what we're building here is, made for marketers by marketers, right? Because it goes back to our DNA at T-Mobile of having created a great brand that has, we're the Un-carrier. And we also, to your point, we invest heavily in our investment to make sure that we're reaching our customers wherever they might be. And so as we're building our products, our integrated media solutions, we're testing, with one of the best brands out there. And we have a very high bar when it comes to how do we, one, think about data? How do we think about reaching core customers, conquesting? How do we think about not just, sort of the spots and dots of a sight, sound, motion, video, but then how are we augmenting that with retail media network, digital out of home, exploring what more can be done with T-Mobile Tuesday and thankings, right? Everything we're building here is with a thoughtful mind of if it works for our own house, it will indeed work for other clients' investments who are in either similar or businesses that, again, are just looking to reach their customers in meaningful ways. Now, at the New Front, we were also, though, very clear. We're using data for apps right now to look at an ecosystem that, again, I think we think about how we invest our time. I mean, so much of it is spent with our phone. We are constantly either engaging with apps, installing apps. We have to be reminded that it's almost like a channel guide, right? And it is doing everything from telling us what is the weather to, how do we want to engage with our friends and our family, to paying bills. I call it taking care of business, right? And T-Mobile has a really unique lens on that, but we're using that today as our first way in which to think about how do we demonstrate targeting, activation, and then value for measurement. And we're tapping into that because of the needs of T-Mobile marketing, but then how do we bring that to, again, the marketplace in a more scaled fashion? But yes, it is a very unique place that we sit in. And when I said retail media network, I would be remiss if I didn't say we've got 2,000 plus brick and mortar stores across the nation, right? So this is sort of a place where it's very, not just unique, but it's also an advantage because It's just how we wake up every day, knowing that we have connectivity, brick and mortar, and we have data that we can fuel, again, smarter advertising budgets.
I just want to add, one of the great things I think about when I think about T-Mobile are the people that you have leading or working at your organization. And I mentioned earlier how much I'm kind of fanning over the fact that we have you here. And one of the things that I think I admire about you and people like Mike Peralta, right, are the fact that you have this broader perspective of not only understanding the types of services and products that you're building within your organization, but you personally have sat down with lots of brands and advertisers, talked about research and insights and really around closed loop marketing, what it does it mean in terms of like reach and frequency and currency and all of that stuff. But then also thinking about the consumer and really understanding your consumer. Not a lot of companies out there that we see often hire people that have such a great relationship with the buy side and kind of like sit in their mind in terms of like, how are they approaching their businesses and what are they looking for?
I love that you say that, and I appreciate that so much. I just want to say thank you for that. But I think that is the real privilege of this opportunity at T-Mobile as we start thinking about how do we, again, to the earlier point, unlock data in a privacy-centric way that does right by our customers, but also because we understand the advertising ecosystem, everything from ad tech, the platforms, the measurement, the currency, everything you just said. And I'm thinking about my friends sort of on the client and on the agencies and saying, how can I help solve some of their problems, right? Like we're all in this together. And yes, it's about education. This is something that you said earlier. As an industry, we have to start building best practice, right? Sharing with each other what we're learning, making sure we're holding ourselves each other accountable in a good way about how, again, what's changing, education, but then also, Angelina, something that is really important, change management. So yes, this is a big deal in the industry. Yes, companies like T-Mobile and others are starting to get very smart about their first party data, thinking about, again, being digital first, AI enabled, data powered. But again, internally at our companies, we've got to get people comfortable with the value proposition of this, right? It's a new muscle. It's a very new muscle. So having these kinds of conversations, one for the industry, but then also internally at our organizations is vital because you can't do this in a vacuum. There is no doing this. We're not going to be successful unless we take all the knowledge and the industry experience and we bring it into a company where this is not a core competency, but where they're thinking very big about what we should be doing in this space and then educate everyone from the people who are at the call centers, right, to our brand stewards, to the engineers. I call them the stewards in the lords of the data, right? Everything that we're doing. And then when we think about, again, we're T-Mobile advertising, but we have T-Mobile for Business, which in itself is a powerful vehicle in the marketplace to our own marketing spend.
And I want to go back to you for a second. It's one of our favorite topics, and it comes on in the wake of talking to Andrea about that they are the buy side as well as the sell side. One of my favorite questions to you is, you were on the buy side for years on the brand and agencies. So I want you to get into the DeLorean and go back.
I go back to it every day.
Now I want you to get in the DeLorean and I want you to go back to one of your old jobs. However, what you're bringing back with you to one of your old buying jobs is you're in the current privacy by design ecosystem. How do you think your life would have been different?
Well, first off, I think that, and I think about this every day. When I first started, which was like 30 years ago, who would have ever thought that media planners and buyers have to think about privacy?
Yeah.
And I think, Andrea, you brought up a really great point that it's a culture thing where it needs to come from the top down, where privacy privacy centric, privacy by design, privacy by default, consumer centric perspective is core. And so that does mean understanding what the regulations are, thinking about the impact that it will have not only to your organization, but as well as to your customers and to your partners, and really looking at evaluating and assessing companies' practices. One of the things around CPRA and many of the other state laws is that companies are obligated to do due diligence of not only practices within their organization, but the companies that they're also working with as well. And so if you're integrating with another company or you're taking in data from that other company, it is your responsibility, your organization's responsibility to understand, where did that information come from? Was it consented? What are their practices? How are they adjusting and modifying their practices? And how are they handling consent? And so I think as a planner, as a buyer, as a brand person, these are not things that I thought about 8 years ago, right? 5 years ago, in fact. When Privacy Sandbox first came out, the thing you thought about are cookies. And now cookies and privacy regulations are kind of intermingled. And so you have to think about all those different things of what you're collecting, not from the device, but also what consumers are perhaps their understanding of how their data is being used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My guess is, well, not my guess, our understanding from a lot of the research we did is that they have a good idea, or they know the purpose of what their data is being used for, but I don't think there's enough education in terms of what specifically it's being used for and who it's shared with. I think they know the why. I'm not sure they know how. They know that a car gets them from point A to point B. I don't think they know everything that is happening under the hood, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know what an identity solution is. They don't
No,
know what a
absolutely
data
not.
clean room is,
No,
right?
they
I was,
know why, whatever, what data is for. They have a pretty good understanding that advertising helps power businesses, particularly on the publisher side. But a lot of the terms that we use and a lot of strategies and tactics that we use, I think, are unknown. And I think a little bit of education would go a far way. I'm sorry, Andrea, I cut you off there for a second.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
you're fine. But as we're talking, it becomes, how do we bring not only the consumer along for the journey, right? So it goes back to having language that is very transparent, very clear, and ultimately allows for a choice, right? That is informed to either say yes or no to consent, to opt in or to opt out. That's one. Then you also have our own industry, right? This is why we talk. What are we doing? How are we thinking about this? Is your data, how are you capturing said data? Is it again in a privacy compliant way? Can we actually do something that will then allow us to activate our first party data and your first party data again in a data clean room or maybe on-prem? Again, these are things that all have to be taught, right, and learned, and it's again evolving. And then there's, like I was saying this earlier, it's our own internal organizations that have to learn this as well. So there's many audiences that we have to educate if we want this to be successful. And it won't happen overnight, right? This is why even at T-Mobile, we're being very thoughtful in our approach. We have everyone at the table, from again the engineers to our privacy team to our data governance team to our comms team to our brands team to where I sit somewhere in TATS, right, to make sure that we're being really holistic in how we think about this, but then also eventually how we create products and actionize against this, right? But again, this is why it's fun. And we'll be talking about different things here in the next 5 to 8 years that we never thought we'd be talking about. But for us, it's like data clean rooms, data hygiene, data enrichment. How are we doing this? Who's enabling it? Do you have consent? Let's keep asking that, from beginning to end in the journey.
Yeah,
I love the way you said it was it's kind of a new muscle, and you have to get used to using it, and you have to build it up, and then before you can even begin flexing it, you have to understand what this new muscle is and how to use it, and then you can flex it. Go ahead, Ange.
Yeah, I was going to also, I think one other thing is a new way of thinking. I think marketers especially need to think about the fact that there will continue to be restrictions on how we use data. There will likely at some point, maybe not in the near future, but more restrictions on the use of artificial intelligence and what is being generated from it. Eventually, I think we'll have a federal regulation around data privacy. And I think gone are the days of deterministic data and raw event log level data, and being able to take into those signals and APIs and dissect it the way that you can. We're moving towards an aggregated world.
Yes.
Where with less signals. IP address is likely going to be a big challenge for many, not for T-Mobile, because you provide services at the IP level, but a majority of the market will not be able to get those signals. And so it is important that marketers think about, yes, let me invest in first-party data. However, what can I do to create cohorts, to create lookalike models, to create different audience segments that I may not be able to see actual true attribution through some sort of pixel or some sort of event log. And so things like AI, machine learning, data modeling, predictive analysis is going to be that much more important in the future.
Yeah.
So we are unfortunately coming to the end of our time. However, I wanted to get one more parting shot from each of you. I'm going to ask Andrea, you to go first. What's a tenet or thought that you would like to leave us with in terms of the privacy by design ecosystem and how to execute in there properly?
Yeah, so I think there are always going to be the things that I think we're all collectively aware of, right? We've got to make sure that we put it with a customer first lens, that we are transparent, that we offer them control, that we build upon the trust and we keep that trust as a go forward. We keep that precious above all things, and then we protect. If we can do that while also communicating value, right? Like you'll get better advertising experiences. I mean, that would be a cherry on top to the entire exercise. But those are the things that I think we need to be hyper-focused as an industry, along with the education. So that would be sort of my closing.
That is beautiful. Ange?
I'm going to say partnerships. And I think that, and taking my, time machine hat on, even as of 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, but before programmatic especially, there was such a collaboration and such synergy and partnerships that were being developed across the market. There was a stronger relationship with platforms such as Yahoo, Microsoft, AOL at the time, right? There was lots of relationships between publishers and advertisers doing direct buys. And I think that's something that I'd love to see more focus on. Programmatic kind of took us away from doing that, where it just became a numbers game on a screen. And I think it's really important to develop relationships like with T-Mobile, understand your editorial calendar. What are the different things that can be created? Branded entertainment, sponsorships, content synergies and integrations that can be established that really focuses, again, consumer first, and developing content and experiences that consumers want in different environments, in different places, but gain the insights, take the insights from your partners like T-Mobile or from a publisher, online publisher, and magazine and newspaper even, and understand what are they looking at, what do they seem to be spending their most time at, and creating programs and campaigns around that. And I think those that do will be in a better place than those that are just looking at numbers on the screen and optimizing towards a cost per acquisition, because it's not going to work and it's not going to be scalable.
Angelina, thank you very much. I want to say actually thanks to both of you. That was excellent. Great conversation. Andrea Zapata from T-Mobile, Angelina Eng from the Measurement, Addressability, and Data Center at the IAB. And to you, our listeners and viewers, this has been an IAB Pulse episode of Let's Chat, and we'll see you soon on the next episode. Thank you.